So here's the thing about being told you're paranoid for 8 months straight. You start to believe it. You really do. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I sleep better now than I have in 2 years. No melatonin, no white noise machine, no 3 a.m. scroll sessions trying to quiet my brain. Just solid, dreamless sleep. The kind where you wake up actually rested. And it's all because I finally read the text my ex sent to the woman he swore I was crazy for worrying about. Rewind to last March. I'm sitting in my car outside a Trader Joe's, phone in hand, battery at 23%, watching those 3 little dots appear and disappear on his screen. We'd been together 14 months. Good months, mostly. The kind where you start thinking about whose lease ends first and whether you'd want a dog or a cat. But something shifted around February. Nothing dramatic. He just got quieter. Started watching me differently when I talked. This very specific look, like he was waiting for me to mess up. I'd ask him about his day and he'd give me these exhausted sighs. Why are you interrogating me? Over normal questions. Where'd you have lunch? How was the gym? Did you talk to your mom? Regular relationship check-in stuff that suddenly became evidence of my trust issues. Here's what I didn't know then. Every time he made me feel insane for asking a simple question, he was texting her. His ex from college, the one he'd mentioned exactly twice in our entire relationship. Once to say they'd dated sophomore year, once to say she'd moved to Portland and he hadn't talked to her in ages. The Portland thing was true, actually. The hadn't talked to her part was not. My best friend Maya noticed it first. We were getting coffee on a Sunday morning. She was already on her second espresso. I was still working through my first, and she just stopped mid-sentence about her terrible Hinge date and looked at me. You seem tired. I am tired. No, like, tired in a bad way. What's going on with Jake? And I did that thing where you defend someone even though you're the one who needs defending. Nothing's going on. He's just stressed with work, which was true. His company was doing layoffs. But Maya had this look, this narrowed eye thing she does when she smells garbage. When was the last time you guys had fun? Like actual fun? I couldn't answer. We'd gone to a movie 2 weeks earlier, but he'd been on his phone half the time. Before that, maybe a month. We'd tried a new ramen place and he'd barely spoken, just scrolled through Instagram while I ate. He's probably just in his head about work, I said again. But I drove home with this weird tightness in my chest. That feeling where your body knows something before your brain catches up. That night, I made the mistake of asking if we were okay. We were in his apartment, some true crime documentary playing in the background, him on one end of the couch, me on the other. Normal couple distance. Except it didn't feel normal anymore. Why wouldn't we be okay? He didn't even look up from his laptop. I don't know. You just seem distant lately, and this is where it started. The script he'd apparently been workshopping. I'm not distant. You're being paranoid. I think you need to work on your anxiety. My anxiety. Like it was this separate entity causing problems. Not his complete emotional withdrawal. Not the fact that we hadn't had a real conversation in weeks. I tried to explain. I wasn't anxious by nature. I'd been in relationships before where I felt totally secure. This wasn't about me being generally paranoid. This was about his specific behavior changes. So now I'm not allowed to have bad days? I have to perform for you? I wasn't asking him to perform. I was asking him to be present. But he'd flipped it somehow, made it about my unreasonable expectations. And I started to doubt myself. Because he seemed so certain. So calm and rational while I was there trying not to cry over what felt like a completely normal relationship concern. This became the pattern. I'd noticed something. Him angling his phone away, leaving the room to take calls, that weird guilt laugh he'd do when I walked in, and he'd tell me I was inventing problems. You're creating drama where there isn't any. I think you should talk to someone about these trust issues. My ex used to do this and it ruined everything. That last one was Rich. His ex. The one from college he definitely wasn't talking to. By April, I was genuinely questioning my own perception of reality. Like maybe I was paranoid. Maybe this was my problem. I made an appointment with a therapist. $75 a week to discuss whether I was manufacturing relationship problems through anxiety. Plot twist. The therapist didn't think I was crazy. Session 3. She asked me to describe a specific incident. I told her about the previous Tuesday. Jake and I were supposed to get dinner. He canceled an hour before, said he had to stay late at work. Fine, understandable. Except his Instagram story that night showed him at a bar. Not a work bar. A regular bar with dim lighting and cocktails. When I asked about it the next day, neutrally, just, "Hey, I saw you went out, thought you were working late." He exploded. Not yelling, but that cold, controlled anger that's somehow worse. "So you're monitoring my social media now? This is exactly what I'm talking about." "You're suffocating me." I'd looked at his public Instagram story. "That's not monitoring, that's just having eyes." My therapist did this thing where she paused for a long time, then asked, "Does he often tell you that your normal reactions are abnormal?" "Yes, constantly. Every concern I raised somehow became evidence of my dysfunction. That's called gaslighting," she said. Super matter of fact. And you're not crazy. Hearing that from a professional was like someone finally turning the lights on. I wasn't inventing this. Something was actually wrong, but I still didn't know what. And I still didn't leave. Because knowing you're being gaslit doesn't automatically give you the strength to exit. Plus, I didn't have proof. Just this growing certainty that he was lying about something. Maya kept pushing. "Just look at his phone," she said in early May. We were at her apartment. Her sprawled on the floor doing yoga stretches. Me on the couch stress-eating kettle corn. I can't just invade his privacy. He's invading your sanity. "Look at the phone." I didn't look at the phone. Instead, I tried one more direct conversation. Made it a whole thing. Asked him to go for a walk, picked a neutral location, prepared what I wanted to say. This was mid-May, a Saturday afternoon, sunny enough that everyone in Brooklyn was out being aggressively happy. "I feel like you're pulling away and I don't understand why. If you want to break up, just tell me. But the back and forth, the hot and cold, it's making me feel insane." He held my hand. Looked me right in the eyes. "I love you. I'm not going anywhere. You need to trust me. This is your anxiety talking, and it's going to ruin us if you don't get it under control." I believed him. Or I wanted to believe him. Or I was too exhausted to not believe him. 2 weeks after that, his laptop died. Completely bricked. Wouldn't turn on. He borrowed mine for a few days while he figured out the repair situation. Said he'd just use it for work emails, no big deal. He forgot to log out of his iMessage. I didn't notice for 3 days. I wasn't looking for it. But I was using my laptop on a Wednesday evening. He was at the gym, I was catching up on work, and a message preview popped up in the corner of my screen. From Olivia. "Miss you too. Can't wait to see you next month." My stomach did that thing where it physically drops. Like gravity suddenly doubled. I clicked before I could stop myself. 4 months of messages. Daily messages. Good morning texts. Good night paragraphs. Inside jokes. Thinking about you. Wish you were here. Photos. Not inappropriate ones, just regular photos, but intimate in that way where you can tell someone's taking them specifically for one person. Plans. He was planning to visit her in Portland in June. Had already bought the plane ticket. Same weekend, he'd told me he had a work conference in Seattle. But here's the thing that really got me. The tone. The way he talked to her. Excited, engaged, fully present. Everything I'd been begging him to be with me. He asked about her day and actually seemed interested in the answer. Sent her songs. Made plans. Called her Liv with this casual intimacy that made my skin crawl. And the timeline. They'd started talking again in January, right before he started getting distant with me. Right before I became paranoid, I took screenshots. All of them. Methodically, numbly, while my hands shook so badly I kept misaligning the crop. Sent them to myself. Logged him out. Closed the laptop, then I just sat there. On my couch in my apartment with my cat doing that concerned cat thing where they sense distress and start headbutting your leg. It was 6:47 p.m. I could hear my neighbor's TV through the wall, some game show with canned laughter. I wasn't even crying. I was just so tired, and vindicated, and furious. 8 months of being told I was crazy, and here it was. All of it. Proof. Jake came back from the gym at 7:30, let himself in with his key, all sweaty and holding a protein shake. "Hey babe," I looked up from the couch. "Who's Olivia?" The color literally drained from his face. Like in movies, except this was real and happening in my living room. He froze with one shoe half off. "What?" "Olivia from Portland. Who you're visiting in June." He started to say something, stopped, started again. Did you go through my phone?" "Your iMessage was on my laptop. You know, the laptop you forgot to log out of after borrowing for 3 days. I watched him calculate. Watched him try to figure out what I knew and what I didn't. Watched him decide whether to lie more or pivot to offense. He chose offense. So you invaded my privacy. The audacity. The genuine audacity. You've been emotionally cheating on me for 4 months while telling me I have trust issues. It's not cheating. We're just friends. We've been friends since college. You told me you hadn't talked to her in years. I didn't want you to worry about nothing. You bought a plane ticket to Portland to visit a friend. You told me you were going to Seattle for work. I was going to do both. The lies just kept coming. Faster and faster. We weren't doing anything wrong. I was blowing this out of proportion. Yes, he'd hidden it, but only because he knew I'd react like this. I was proving his point about being paranoid. If I'd just trusted him, none of this would be an issue. I let him talk. Just sat there, weirdly calm, listening to him dig. And when he finally ran out of excuses, when he finally stopped talking and looked at me like he was waiting for me to collapse or forgive him or both, I just said, "Get out. Babe, get out of my apartment. Now." He tried for another 10 minutes. Apologies, explanations, promises that nothing physical happened, claims that he'd end it with her, admissions that maybe he'd been confused, but he wanted to fix this. We could fix this. I kept saying no, calmly, firmly, like I was finally speaking a language I'd forgotten how to use. He left. Took his gym bag and his charger and his spare key that I made him leave on the counter. The door closed and I sat in the silence for maybe 20 seconds before Maya called. "Did you do it? Did you look at the phone?" "Better." I looked at the laptop. I sent her the screenshots. She called back immediately, already yelling, "I'm coming over. Don't move. Do you have wine?" "Doesn't matter, I'm bringing wine." She showed up 30 minutes later with 2 bottles and righteous fury. We stayed up until 2 a.m., her scrolling through the screenshots, occasionally shouting, "Are you kidding me?" at particularly egregious messages. "This one," she said, pointing at a text from March. "Sorry I was short earlier. Had a weird conversation with my girlfriend and it put me in a bad mood. He was complaining to her about you, while making you feel crazy for having concerns. The patterns were all there. Every time I'd asked him about being distant, he'd texted Olivia about his stressful relationship. Every time he'd accused me of being paranoid, he'd sent her paragraphs about how much he missed her. He'd constructed this entire narrative where I was the problem, the obstacle, the source of drama, and she'd eaten it up. Encouraged it. Called me that girl in messages. Told him he deserved better. Made jokes about crazy girlfriends. They'd both known exactly what they were doing. Maya read everything. Every text, every excuse, every lie. And then she looked at me with this fierce intensity and said, "You know what you do now? Nothing. You block him everywhere and you let karma handle the rest." I blocked him that night. Phone, Instagram, email, Venmo, all of it, gone. He tried to reach me anyway. Used his work phone, texted from a number I didn't recognize, showed up at my building once. I didn't respond to any of it. Just forwarded the texts to Maya and occasionally to my therapist as evidence that yes, I'd made the right call. And then the universe delivered. 2 months later, my friend Casey, who I hadn't seen since college and who randomly ended up at the same wedding as me in August, cornered me at the reception. "Did you date Jake Morrison?" "Unfortunately, why?" She pulled out her phone. "My coworker went on a date with him last week. Looked him up beforehand and found his Instagram. Your photos are still up." My stomach dropped again. But she was smiling. She said he was a nightmare. Spent the whole dinner complaining about his ex-girlfriend who was crazy and ruined his last relationship. Then she saw he'd posted an Instagram story during their date. Of his food. Like she wasn't even there. The karma felt good. But it got better. Also, Casey continued, she looked him up online after. Found a wedding announcement from Portland. Olivia Martinez married someone named David Chen 3 months ago. I made her repeat it. Olivia, the woman Jake had been emotionally cheating with, the woman he'd bought plane tickets to visit, the woman who'd called me that girl, got married. To someone else. While Jake was still texting her, he'd blown up his entire relationship, gaslit me into therapy, and created elaborate lies for a woman who was engaged to someone else the whole time. Maya screamed when I told her. Actually screamed. He destroyed your mental health for a woman who was planning a wedding, the beauty of it. The absolute poetry. I don't know if Olivia ever told Jake about her engagement. I don't know if he found out before or after I left him. I don't know if he made it to Portland that June or if she ghosted him first. And I genuinely, truly, deeply do not care. What I know is this. I spent 8 months being told I was anxious, paranoid, dramatic, and suffocating. I apologized for having normal concerns. I went to therapy to fix problems I wasn't creating. I doubted my own memory, my own perception, my own sanity, and I was right the entire time. That feeling, validation after gaslighting, it's not even satisfaction. It's relief. It's your brain finally settling after months of being told up is down. It's permission to trust yourself again. I sleep like a baby now. No racing thoughts about whether I'm being reasonable. No second-guessing every concern. No voice in my head repeating, "You're overreacting," while my gut screams otherwise. My therapist says I have better boundaries now. Clearer standards. Less tolerance for people who make me feel crazy for having feelings. Maya says I'm scarier, in a good way. You used to apologize for existing. Now you just exist. I'm dating again, casually. A guy named Marcus who actually texts back and doesn't sigh when I ask about his day. It's early. Might not go anywhere. But when I mentioned feeling weird about something small, he canceled plans once and his explanation felt vague. He didn't tell me I was paranoid. He apologized for being unclear and explained more thoroughly. Normal relationship behavior. What a concept. Jake's still in New York, according to mutual friends who update me without my asking. Still dating, still telling people his ex was crazy, still being exactly who he was, and I'm here. Sleeping soundly, trusting my gut, reading texts that confirm what I already knew. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's just getting your brain back and realizing you were never the problem. I finally read the texts. All of them. Every lie, every excuse, every manipulation laid bare. And then I slept like a baby. Best decision I ever made.